Hello and welcome. This is your host Bianca Saurashtra, and we'll be bringing to you some of the prominent news stories from across the world. Let's have a look at the headlines. Assailants kill journalist along his police bodyguards in Kashmir. Queen Elizabeth II and Duchess of Sussex pause to remember Grenfell victims. United Nations calls for inquiry into human rights abuses in Kashmir. Hong Kong's controversial China rail checkpoint finally passed by lawmakers amid protests, delays and expulsions. Iraqi beauty queen draws criticism for Israel visit. Let's have a look at the stories in detail. A senior journalist and his two police bodyguards were fatally shot on Thursday by assailants in the Indian-controlled Kashmir. Sajjad Bukharia was shot by unidentified gunmen as he left his office in Srinagar, the disputed region's main city. Bukhari, who was a group editor for 3 daily newspapers and a weekly, including the English-language daily Rising Kashmir, was targeted as he was getting into a vehicle. Bukhari and one police bodyguard were declared dead on arrival at a hospital. The other bodyguard died later. Police said that the assailants came on a motorbike and fired a volley of bullets towards the victims, leaving Bukhari and his guards in a pool of blood. He died before he could get medical aid, said Mohammad Omar, the group manager of Bukhari's newspaper. Bukhari was an advocate for a peaceful resolution of the Kashmir disputed and was often part of peace conferences between India and Pakistan, attended by former diplomats and generals from both countries. Kashmir, which is divided between India and Pakistan, but both claim it in its entirety. Rebels have been fighting India rule since 1989, demanding that the territory be united either under Pakistan's rule or as an independent country.
La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha La ilaha La ilaha अंदर इतना अंदर इतना वार
Die suchen auch kaputt gewesen. Die ist tot ausgespielt, tot und wund. Ja. Super gut. Oh, so lang gut. Okay.
Sayın Valsa sayın.
Journalists in Kashmir have worked under tremendous stress and have been targeted in the past, some fatally, by both the Indian state and militant groups.
और आज सहाफत का सरदार जो है कश्मीर में मारा गया है। ये नामालूम जो हमारे यहाँ पिछले कई सालों से चल रहे हैं, इस नामालूम ने हमारी कौम को बर्बाद किया है और आज एक बार फिर हमारी कौम का एक बहुत बड़ा सरमाया लूटा गया है।
Britain's Queen Elizabeth II paid tribute to victims of Grenfell Tower in a minute's silence that marked the first anniversary of the fire, which destroyed the residential high-rise in West London, killing 72 people. A national minute's silence was observed at midday throughout the country. It was the worst loss of life in a domestic blaze in Britain since World War II and sparked nationwide grief and soul-searching. The deceased lived in a social housing tower at the heart of one of the richest parts of London. The Queen was accompanied on an official visit to the northwest of England by the Duchess of Sussex, her first joint appearance with the monarch without her husband Prince Harry. The Queen and the Duchess were in Cheshire for the official opening of the Mersey Gateway Bridge and Chester Story House Theatre. United Nations Human Rights Chief has called for an independent international investigation into reports of rights violations in the disputed region of Kashmir, laying blame for civilian death and injuries on the actions of both India and Pakistan. In its first report on the region published, the Office of Zaid Ra'ad Al Hussein, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, details chronic impunity for violations committed by security forces.
This report is the first ever issued by the UN on the human rights situation in India-administered and Pakistan-administered Kashmir. It details human rights violations and abuses on both sides of the line of control, and it highlights a situation of chronic impunity for violations committed by security forces.
The report was written without visiting the region, as both sides refused to grant unconditional access to the investigators. The 49-page report aids to criticism about India's tactics in Kashmir by slaying its security forces. Use of pellet-firing shotguns has caused multiple deaths and injuries. Al-Hussein called the weapon inaccurate and deadly.
One of the most dangerous weapons being used against protesters in Kashmir is the pellet-firing shotgun. A number of people have been killed and thousands injured by shotgun pellets since July 2016. Many people have been partially or completely blinded, and I am urging the security forces to completely halt their use of this inaccurate and deadly weapon during crowd control operations.
India and Pakistan have a long history of bitter relations over Kashmir, which both claim they have fought 2 of their 3 wars since they won independence from British colonists in 1947 over their competing claims to the region.
One particular Indian law gives security forces virtual immunity against prosecution for any human rights violation. The report found that in the nearly 28 years that the law has been in force in Jammu and Kashmir, there has not been a single prosecution of armed forces personnel granted by the central government.
India accuses Pakistan of arming and training rebel groups who demanded that the territory be united either under Pakistan rule or as an independent country. India accuses Pakistan of arming and training rebel groups who demand that their territory be united either under Pakistan's rule or as an independent country.
We will be urging the Human Rights Council, the UN Human Rights Council, to consider establishing a commission of inquiry to conduct a comprehensive, independent, international investigation into allegations of human rights violations in Kashmir.
Pakistan denies the charge and said that it only provides moral and domestic support to Kashmir's fighting Indian rule.
There is also chronic impunity for sexual violence in Kashmir, both for incidents allegedly carried out by security forces and by armed groups. The report points to evidence that the armed groups that have operated in Jammu and Kashmir since the late 1980s have, in addition to sexual violence, committed a wide range of human rights abuses, including kidnappings and killings of civilians. And despite the government of Pakistan's denial of any support for these groups, the report notes that a number of experts have concluded that Pakistan's military continues to support these groups' operations across the line of control.
Hong Kong's legislature on Thursday night finally passed a bitterly contested bill to set up a joint border checkpoint with mainland China in the heart of the city after marathon debate that saw attempts to delay the vote descend into chaos. The so-called co-location bill was passed by 40 to 20 votes 5 months after it was tabled at the Legislative Council for approval to station mainland Chinese immigration officers at the West Kowloon terminal of the $84 billion Hong Kong dollar high-speed railway that will link the city to Guangzhou. The Guangzhou-Shenzhen-Hong Kong Express Rail Link bill allows passengers to clear both Hong Kong and mainland border checks at a single location, which means mainland laws will be enforced in Hong Kong for soil for the first time. Opposition politicians and their pro-democracy supporters see it as a violation of Hong Kong's mini-constitution, the basic law which would undermine the city's autonomy under the one country, two system of governing policy. Secretary for Transport and Housing Frank Chan Fan said before the bill was put to vote, the conflicts was rooted in difference in beliefs and faith.
The idea is to enable the train to make a clean journey right the way through without stopping at the border between Hong Kong and the rest of the mainland. This is not too dissimilar from facilities that exist at other transport facilities, such as St Pancras in London, where French immigration officials may carry out immigration powers to vet passengers seeking to travel to France on the Eurostar. The big difference, and this is the main concern of people in Hong Kong, is that the mainland officials are not being given just the ability to carry out immigration control, but the zone is devoted entirely to the mainland officials and includes the application of all mainland laws. So that means that when you pass into the zone, you pass in effect into the mainland. And people are very nervous about that because they fear they may transgress some rule or law they don't know about, or fall foul of the mainland law and be whisked away across the border into the mainland. And no court in Hong Kong can help them because, as I say, the zone is deemed to be, in effect, part of the mainland. And the concern is for the future, if this can be done for a railway station, might it be done for some other reasons, some other purpose as well?
He urged opposing lawmakers to embrace the co-location agreement with an open attitude.
Obviously, this co-location arrangement violates the basic law as well as, very common legal practices in Hong Kong.
Sara Idhan, Iraq's 2017 Miss Universe beauty pageant contestant, had visited Israel this week, a trip that has enraged people back home. Sara Idhan was criticized and received death threats after taking a selfie with Israeli contestant Adel Gandelsman during last November's competition. She arrived in Israel earlier this week and reunited with Gandelsman during a visit organized by the American Jewish Committee to talk about peace.
I came to Israel. My friend Adar, she told me that the American Jewish Committee, they were trying to contact me. They wanted me to come here and speak about peace. And they told me, if you come here and talk about your relationship with Adar, your friendship, and how you withstood everything together, it will be a great message for people to unite. And for me, that was, like a huge thing. So definitely I felt proud and honored to come here and talk about peace.
Miss Iraq, who currently resides in the United States, received the title in 2017 after the original winner was disqualified for being married. Her appearance in Israel drew harsh criticism for Iraqis on social media.
People, they responded differently. Some people, they thought it was great, they were behind it, they said, thank you, you've done the right thing, we're behind you. And some people were against it, and they said, you do not represent Iraq, we're ashamed of you. We do not support this decision. So it was mixed.
Iraq and Israel do not have diplomatic relations. Despite criticism, Idhan said that she isn't afraid and that she visited Israel because she wanted peace for everyone, for Israelis and for Palestinians.
I'm worried a bit, and it's normal. Every woman is worried, but I wouldn't say I'm afraid. I lived my whole life in Iraq, being in a position where I have to be afraid, and I learned to live with fear. So it's okay, I'm good. My message for those who oppose my visit to Israel is that I hope they understand why I'm here. I'm here because I want peace for everyone, for Israelis, for Palestinians. I'm not looking at people by nationality or religion. I'm looking at them as human beings, and we all deserve to have a normal life and peace.
Well, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching.